Brant. Rest in peace, Brant. Oh, we should cut that. I just started recording.
Oh, you recorded?
Yeah.
Real funny.
Well, Abe's so excited that he's doing ham bone on his thighs right now. So why don't you intro us and the show and what we're going to be talking about?
You got it. The year is 1998. It's as if a whole millennia were to say, wait, I'm not done. The Coen brothers need to put out one more masterpiece.
That wasn't 99? Wouldn't be better for that? All right.
Well, that was The Mummy. See,
Okay.
it was the gift that kept giving. But in 98, they made a little movie that's become kind of a cult following. There's even festivals
A convention,
surrounding it.
yes.
The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski.
Welcome to Coen Brothers. I'm Abe Epperson.
I'm Michael Swain.
And we are the Coen Brothers.
Where we analyze the film The Sisters Brothers every episode. Through the lens of the philosophy of Joel and Ethan Coen.
Yeah. Chronologically, philosophically.
Very confused premise.
Yeah.
No, we are talking about The Big Lebowski. As always, we'll be analyzing the film through the spectra of diegesis, what happens in the film, pedagogy, what did it mean, and how'd he do that? How'd they do that? Fun behind the scenes facts. So, first is diegesis. I'd like to think everyone listening to this has seen The Big Lebowski. Otherwise, stop this now.
Yeah, come on, people.
Because I want to be allowed to quote the movie, and you should not hear these lines out of context first. You need to experience it for yourself.
Why do we keep giving this caveat every time?
It's one of the crown jewels of the Coen Brothers empire. I think almost everyone agrees. Abe, on the last episode, you said it was your favorite of all.
Yes. I was telling you outside, it's kind of like the Christopher Guest movies, between Best in Show or This is Spinal Tap or A Mighty Wind. For the Coen Brothers, maybe Oh Brother, this one, there's a few of them that whatever is the last one I watched is my favorite movie of all time.
Right.
And Big Lebowski, in order to do this podcast, I watched recently, and every time I watch it, I go, God damn it, it's a perfect film.
I'm saving that distinction, favorite Coen Brothers film, for way late in the run, because there is one that I genuinely
know
feel
what
that
it
way about, and I want to
is.
save it. And no, it's not No Country, which is the obvious pick. Although that's a great movie, which we'll get to later. So what happens in this goddamn movie? Basically, I want to give the opening monologue because
sometimes
it's a very important that the film is bookended, I would say, by Sam Elliott, who you will know as
the Stranger,
quintessential cowboy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Other than Clint Eastwood, I think like he is cowboy.
He's Mustache Man, who is at the bar.
And his voice is even more cowboy than Clint's, in my opinion, like iconic. But he appears only at the beginning and end. And in the beginning, he gives this opening narration monologue as we watch a tumbleweed, first joke of the film, great joke, a tumbleweed roll through the desert, over a hill. We think this is a cowboy movie, but then the tumbleweed rolls over a hill that's looking over Los Angeles. You realize it's a Los Angeles movie. The tumbleweed rolls all the way through Los Angeles to the beach and rolls into the ocean and disappears, which couldn't happen.
Why is it? What are you doing in the beach?
But meanwhile, Sam Elliott is saying, way out west, there's this fella I want to tell you about, Jeff Lebowski. You see, sometimes there's a man. I won't say a hero, because what's a hero? But sometimes there's a man, and I'm talking about the dude here. Sometimes there's a man, well, he's the man for his time and place. He just fits right in there. And that's the dude in Los Angeles. Wow, lost my train of thought there. Hell, I done introduced him enough. And then the movie starts,
which is perfect. It's like it's perfect. It says what the movie's going to be about.
And we meet Jeff Lebowski, who is known primarily as the dude, the duder, El Duderino.
Yeah. So it's like a film noir that everything's kind of a red herring. That's like kind of what it is. It's like Chinatown where nothing really mattered and people were just like fucking off and trying to get money, but like nothing really happened.
Yeah, so the dude is Jeff Bridges in a role that would come to define him for many of us.
Jesus, yeah.
He's had some other great roles, but the dude is just, no one else could do it the way he did. And he's this stoner, slacker, robe-wearing, middle-aged guy living in L.A., bouncing rent checks,
Drinking White Russians.
bowling with his friends, being a functional alcoholic, trying to do nothing. The dude just abides.
He just abides.
And as you'll see, unlike, I think Gabe nailed it right on the head. This is their first of, I would argue, 2 movies, the other one being Burn After Reading, where the whole game is, let's Rolodex everything that would happen in a PI, film noir, and then undermine it in different, ingenious ways. And one of those ways is that the dude who would be our PI and like is the guy who is drawn into a web of mystery never does anything or wants to do anything or is trying to do anything.
Well, he wants his
rug
back
reimbursed.
It really tied the room together.
But he doesn't even want that until, and I think this is why they give him. So the dude is part of an awesome comedy trio.
Yeah.
Him, Steve Buscemi, and John Goodman, who are respectively Donnie and Walter. And I think one of the reasons they give him Walter is because if you notice, he doesn't even care about the rug till Walter's like, no, we have to do this. And he's like, okay.
It tied the room together.
The dude just does what comes up in front of him.
And Donnie doesn't exist, really. He's this ghost of an event. He's an absolute non-character.
Yeah, Donnie, played by Steve Buscemi, is a character who only interjects lines that get interrupted that could be cut without affecting the film.
Often repeating what was just said. Literally what was just said.
And of course, by the end, he'll be the one character to tragically die that we're supposed to feel pain about, which makes it, again, very much like a film noir where the PI never gets through unscathed. There's always some innocent who dies, and it really hurts. In this case, it's undermined by the fact that it's not the femme fatale. It's not a tragic innocent. It's some guy who was just hung around there and he was just there. And it's kind of like when Maude Flanders died in The Simpsons, where you're like, he was just always there and we thought he always would be, but now he's not. I guess that's sad.
So the inciting event of this movie is that first off, it's 1991. That's one thing. The dude is at home and he's assaulted by 2 hired goons by the porn magnate.
Hired goons?
Who think that he is...
The porn magnate, Jackie Treehorn. Start remembering
think that he is
later.
the millionaire Jeffrey Lebowski, who is the titular Big Lebowski.
Right, so they have an identical name.
But not the dude.
The dude is poor, there's a rich Lebowski.
And so the Big Lebowski's wife, Bunny, owes money to them. And then they realize they have attacked the wrong person because he's not a millionaire. But they, rough him up and woo one of the henchmen pees on his rug, which really tied the room together. The next day, the dude explains to his friends
that this crazy shit happened,
who are in a on a bowling team together for a local bowling tournament. Walter encourages that the dude go see the Big Lebowski and get the rug, money for the rug, or get the rug back because it really tied the room together.
Right, like the Big Lebowski ran up debts to this porn magnate, and they piss on your rug. He should reimburse you, is his logic.
Yeah,
and to begin the cavalcade of line drops that I think we'll both do, Walter convinces him with one of my favorite John Goodman performances. Because Walter is this unstable Vietnam vet who goes from 0 to 60 and back to 0, like at the drop of a pin. You never fucking know. About the rug, he says, it's not about the rug, dude. It's about, and here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about drawing a line in the sand. And you say, across this line, you do not. Also, dude, Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature. Because he just called Wu a Chinaman. He's like, the Chinaman peed on my rug.
So
what are you talking about, dude? Donnie, you're out of your element.
You're out of your element. You're like a child walking into a movie. The dude who abides is convinced by this and pays a visit to the Big Lebowski
at his mansion,
who's this kind of surly, elderly, wheelchaired millionaire man, and he's looking for compensation for the rug. So he meets, and of course, because he's a slacker, This well, first off, he meets Brant, who's like Brant, who's the Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is just, I guess, his like assistant, right?
Yeah.
And he's just taking him around. One of my favorite scenes, just taking him around the wall to show like the Big Lebowski while they're waiting for the Big
all
Lebowski
his accomplishments and certificates and shit.
And he like shows him his picture of his children. One of my favorites. They're not literally his children. They're the little Lebowski urban achievers, inner city children of promise, but without necessary means for a higher education. Yeah. So Mr. Lebowski is committed to sending them all to college. Like he's just Philip Seymour Hoffman does one of the most amazing things with this small performance that I've ever seen.
Yep.
He's just loyal to a fault, and there's things that like give him character, but no more than his voice. Because he does these things where when he makes a mistake or someone interrupts him, he's too polite that he has to go back. So I want to point out the inner city children of promise, but without the necessary means for a higher education. Right. Like he has to go back and say necessary means. The other thing he does is he goes, all
the time.
He laughs like way too politely.
And we talk about dialect a lot with the Coens, and I really think, even though on the surface it appears there's no dialect in this film, there is, because if you read the script as it's written, on the whole, it has like way more interrupted lines than your average movie. So like interruptions and fucking up what you're saying becomes the dialect.
Yeah,
approach.
It becomes, and it's a timing thing too, and it's just hilarious.
I love when the dude is just playing with different certificates, so Brant can't keep up with trying to tell him about the things he's touching. This key was given in recognition of his various, that was given.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to stop him from messing shit up.
And it concludes, of course, with Time's Man of the Year with the reflection
of the dude.
And he's pleased by this. Yeah. So he gets in to meet with him, and he requests that he say, like, they thought I was you, and they peed on my rug. I'd like a rug. And
he gives him the whole, like, greatest generation.
I just want to understand this, sir. Yeah. Every time a rug is mercuriated upon in this fair city, I have to compensate the owner?
The dude in that scene says, or he goes like, I think that's unreasonable if you don't mind. The dude says, I do mind. The dude minds. This will not stand. This aggression will not stand.
Which is just because he saw, in the intro.
He saw the famous Reagan speech on TV.
Right, the aggression will not stand.
And then the Big Lebowski says, you bums are all the same. You look around in the filth you've created and blame others for it. I did not blame anyone for the loss of my legs, sir. Some Chinaman took them from me in Korea. And you can see the dude flinch because in the last scene he learned that Chinaman is not the preferred nomenclature.
Right.
But he decides not to bring it up.
Right. But you can tell because that's something that the dude does throughout the film is he repeats things that other people have said as his own wisdom, which is kind of amazing. On his exit, he sees Bunny who's doing her nails.
Well, it's important to point out that he exits the office and Brant says, what did the Big Lebowski say?
Before he exited, he goes, fuck it. Like, he just bails because he's been called a slacker and he's clearly not going to get the rug.
Charles Durning yells at him, yes, that should be your slogan, sir. Fuck it. Fuck everything, you bum, as he like leaves.
Brant says, how'd it go? He says it went great.
He told me to take any rug I want.
So, in this case, the slackers did win. But of course, that comes up a little bit later. As
he exits, he sees Charles Durning's very young wife, Bunny.
Played by Tara Reid.
Trophy wife,
who is doing her nails, which is a plant and payoff because later they send to toe.
There's some toe action.
And we see that, So
second
point is,
Coen film in a row that involves kidnapping yourself.
That's true.
I just realized that.
Back to back kidnapping yourself. Although she technically didn't do anything.
No, you're right. But the topic is addressed.
Everyone thinks she kidnapped herself. She just went to Vegas.
Everything in the movie resolves to nothing happened. That's the point of the movie.
That's the point of the movie.
So he's out there by the poolside. She hits on him very grotesquely, which upsets Brant. Mm-hmm. He also sees Peter Stormare passed out in the pool, who we'll later find out his real name is Carl Hungus. I just want that out very early on.
Who's passed out drunk on drinking Jack Daniels.
She offers to suck his cock for $1,000, so we get the impression that her marriage to Charles Durning isn't going great.
But Brant can't watch.
Oh, yeah, well, The lines are, I'll suck your cock for $1,000. And Brant says, ha ha ha, this is Bunny, wonderful woman. And she says, Brant can't watch though, or he has to pay $100. And he says, that's marvelous. Like,
That's marvelous.
He just can't.
What a joke.
Yeah.
She's so colorful.
So we cut back to the bowling alley. We find out as an aside, the beginning of this B plot, that Walter has this weird submissive relationship with an ex. His ex-wife, who he's been divorced from for 5 years, and she's remarried.
Still wears the ring.
Still wears the ring. He's still Jewish, even though he only converted for her. He's watching her dog while she's out of town. Oh, the important thing in this bowling scene is the gun getting pulled on Smokey. Okay, so they're speaking of going from 0 to 60. They're bowling. It's a tournament game, which is very important to Walter. And he perceives that one of their opponents, Smokey, stepped over the line and says, mark it foul, dude. And Smokey keeps saying, no, it was like an 8. Mark it 8, dude. And Walter pulls a gun in the bowling alley, points a gun at his head and says, mark it 0. And Smokey marks it himself and is like, Jesus Christ, are you happy, you fucking psycho? At which point Walter says, it's tournament play, dude. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
Am I wrong?
Which is one of Walter's go-to catchphrases.
Because you're not wrong, Walter. You're just an asshole.
Yep. Maybe I think the most wise line in the show. We could all learn so much from that. But they get into the car while they're arguing about Smokey. Also great lines. Dude is telling Walter, you really shouldn't have pulled a gun on him. And Walter immediately backs down and is like empathetic. He goes, you shouldn't have pulled a gun on Smokey. He's a pacifist. That doesn't exempt you from dealing with confrontation, dude. But he has issues. You mean beyond just pacifism? Yes, he's fragile, Walter. Very fragile.
I did not.
Oh, I did not know that. Or he wouldn't have pulled the gun.
He wouldn't have pulled a gun on him if he knew that he's fragile.
Yeah. So cops pull up as they pull out. And yeah, you take over. Tag me in.
It's a few days later, Lebowski contacts the dude.
It's a hard plot to describe because, again, it's kind of structureless. Like, this just happened. Now
You're unaware of if days have passed. Everyone's wearing the same clothes, more or less. Everyone has signature sunglasses or robes or...
Structurally, it's a slacker of a movie.
They wear, bowling outfits, so it's like... you're not really sure. But... according to the synopsis, a few days later, he gets a call from the dude gets a call from the Big Lebowski saying that Bunny's been kidnapped, and he wants the dude to deliver a briefcase of the $1 million ransom and see if he can recognize the culprits. Assumably because he's the only type of that element that the Big Lebowski has witnessed recently.
It's going to turn out to all be a lie.
It's all a lie.
But I think their other excuse is he saw the 2 henchmen of Jackie Treehorn's, so he can confirm or deny whether Jackie Treehorn did it. That's what Brant says. It's like, you can ID the henchman of Jackie Treehorn if you do the handoff.
Yeah.
So that's why we want you. Of course, they say we don't care about the rug, and we'll give you like a big finder's fee if you do this.
I also love that later a different pair of thugs appear in the dude's apartment, knock him out, and take his rug that he stole from the Big Lebowski. So now the rug's been
and these will turn
pissed on, and then the new rug has...
These will turn out to be Maud Lebowski's thugs.
Right. Everyone's got thugs.
Maud is the Big Lebowski's daughter. This is all unspooling. They bowl again. They're going to bowl a lot. Get used to it. Because this is the Jesus scene. Played ably by John Turturro. Jesus is a purple-clad registered sex offender with... like a long ponytail and a single purple nail who dresses very flamboyantly.
I love that his intro is they play a Spanish guitar version of Hotel California by the Eagles, which the dude hates.
Yeah, I hate the fucking Eagles. Yep.
I hate the fucking Eagles.
It's Spanish language. Hotel California. He licks his bowling ball as if it's a clitoris and then bowls a strike. Walter tells a long story about how he's a registered sex offender. Actually uses the term pederast because Donnie... ducks in to go, what's a pederast, Walter? Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
One of the most brilliant montage cuts, top 10 to me. The cut when they're explaining that when he came to LA, he had to tell everyone in his neighborhood that he was a kid diddler. And they
Cut to it.
They still play Hotel California over it and stuff like that, but they cut to it and he's just walking down the street and he knocks on the door and the door opens and
that's it.
Cuts right as he like inhales, like you know what he's gonna say is his next line is I'm a
required to
sexual
inform
predator.
you I'm a sex offender.
Yeah, but you don't need to see that, and so it's just one of those beautiful mundane moments.
Efficiency.
I don't know. It's just one of those Coen Brothers things. I can't explain why it's like good or bad or not. It's just when you watch it, you notice it as different.
Although at the same time, I question the efficiency of having the flashback at all. It was interesting that they felt the need to shoot a sequence of it.
It definitely makes Jesus hilarious because
And then
we cut back to him.
Well, this is for pedagogy, but just to put in your mind. Then I zoom out and wonder, does the Jesus need to be in the movie? Like,
does
why does
Donnie
he
need to
exist?
be in the movie? What movie are we talking about?
All
here?
right. Okay. So
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, Abe. So at the same bowling session, they're shooting the shit, and the dude comes up with what I believe is his only act of deductive reasoning in the film that he does himself.
Right.
Is he says, you know, man, I assume this chick Bunny just fucked off with her friends and sent the ransom note because her, like, decrepit old husband keeps her on a tight allowance and she wants money from him. And Walter, immediately assuming that this is absolutely true, like is proven to be true,
He's like a true friend.
flips out and is like, that's offensive. This fucking woman wants to just soak up the money that my brothers died.
Brings
face
up
down
the
in
rug
Vietnam,
again. Yeah.
and they took your rug. Yeah. The Jesus line. We're gonna fuck you up, man. And the dude says, well, that's just, your opinion, man.
It's just like,
So anyway, Walter basically bulldozes the dude and says, I'm going with you on the drop. But he doesn't tell him what his plan is. And is the next thing that they show up at the drop? I think the next thing is he gets a phone call and they show up at the drop.
they get a phone call saying, come alone.
How dumb the dude is, I don't care. He should have known better than to even let Walter come. Yeah.
Right, but
But
the
it's
dude
funny.
abides.
So he swings by Walter's house and picks him up.
And now we getting into the segment for
Walter's
the rest of the
terrible
movie.
plan.
The rest of the movie, though, the dude he's really just winging it.
He just reacts to whatever happens.
Yeah, people now that the plan has been hatched in other people's minds, like this must be what's happening.
Yeah.
He has no agency.
Right.
He's literally not in the driver's seat of his own car.
Right.
So Walter hatches this plan mainly to fill a briefcase with his dirty underwear, his whites.
What's in that case, Walter? It's the ringer. What do you mean? What the hell is this? It's my dirty undies, dude. My laundry. The whites.
The whites. And so they drive by. They get a call by the kidnappers again.
Since this is just Bunny and her friends, and they're not actually gonna hurt her, let's keep the money. Tell Lebowski that we gave it to them, and they're
don't
criminals.
know. Yeah.
Maybe they're lying. Who knows? Meanwhile, we trade a ringer, and he goes, but how do we get Bunny back, man? And he goes, that's the brilliant part. As we're handing off the ringer, I grab one of them and beat them with a pipe until they tell us. And he's like, brilliant plan,
Yeah,
man.
good plan.
But then the kidnappers call and say, you're about to pass a bridge. Throw the briefcase out the window off the bridge.
Yeah.
And Walter's like, we can't do that, dude. That ruins our plan. And the dude's like, that's not our plan, man.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
And also on the phone, he says, me and the driver.
They go, come alone. And he goes, well, where are we supposed to meet
And
you?
he hangs up on him, but then I love the little detail of they still want the deal to happen. Like, so it's like low status, criminals. Like they're like, all right, you didn't do what we said you do, but let's still do it.
So then,
Because they're bad. They're nihilists.
Walter, without conferring with the dude, rolls down the window, throws the ringer off the bridge, grabs the wheel, and like Tokyo drifts the car to a stop, still planning to run over there and catch one of the guys and beat it out of him. But the guys all have motorcycles, so they just drive away. With
it's just one guy.
The guy just drives away with the bag.
With the
that
dirty
has
underwear.
in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And now the dude's like, what the fuck do we do, man? They're going to kill her, man. And he's like, you said it yourself. She kidnapped herself. And the dude's like, I don't know that. I was just like shooting the shit with you.
After all of this happens, the obvious thing to do is to go bowling. So
Yeah,
they go bowling.
They say, fuck it, let's go bowling.
Yeah, which at the conclusion of...
Which is basically, I realize bowling is their equivalent of like Sherlock Holmes taking laudanum and playing the violin.
Right.
It's where they figure out their
they
PI
hatch
shit.
plans. But at the conclusion of that bowling night...
sorry. We forgot to say, Walter hands dude an Uzi and
Right.
also has an Uzi, which he drops out of the car and it just fires in all directions.
Right.
Sorry,
Right.
go ahead.
Like, because it's a Looney Tunes. At the conclusion of that night, the dude's car is stolen with the actual...
With the money in the
money
trunk,
inside,
the real money.
the
yeah.
briefcase, which is inside the car.
He files a police report. The police say, we'll probably never find your car.
Right, because, yeah.
And he proceeds to do nothing and wait to see what will happen next, which is when Maud Lebowski's thugs come,
We have
knock him
your
out,
rug.
and steal his rug again. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's played by Julianne Moore.
Yep. The brilliant Julianne Moore.
Fucking love her in this.
Who basically she's a super avant-garde, vagina-forward artist who's like I think the most quintessential interchange when she meets the dude is, yes, my art is very vaginal. Does that cause you discomfort? Many men find it hard to say vagina, even just saying the word. And he goes, what, vagina? So that's the kind of lady we're dealing with here. But she's also the Big Lebowski's daughter, and she blows the lid off. Now follow me now, because this is noir shit. Mm-hmm. The first layer of lies, which is that Jeff Lebowski is nobody. All the money came from his wife, her mom.
Yeah.
He's never worked a day in his life. He's a piece of shit, basically. He loves to act rich. And the only way he could have paid Bunny's ransom is by embezzling from the charitable organization that she, Maud Lebowski, runs. And she suspects he's embezzled much more. Mm. So her whole interest in this is getting him caught and fired from the board because she cares about the charity, which it turns out is Lebowski's Kids, the college charity Brandt mentioned. So even though she's really severe and alienating, she's a hero. She's,
she's
trying to do the
only
right
one
thing.
who's like the adult.
Right, and her goal is to bring justice into the system and fix things for the sake of children who do not have the necessary means to acquire higher education. She also says, we took the rug because I love that rug. Sorry, you can't have it. Like, as a child, I liked that rug, so I just took it back.
I love the interchange the first time the dude meets Maud, which is Maud says, do you like sex, Mr. Lebowski? Dude responds, excuse me? Sex, the physical act of love, coitus. Do you like it? I was talking about my rug. You're not interested in sex? You mean coitus?
Yeah.
It's just, once again, the repetition of dialogue.
Uh-huh.
It's like, and it's also perfect in this movie because once again, we know this about the dude. He repeats things that he's heard. This one just literally came 2 seconds before.
You would know for sure. He just learned that
The word, yeah.
and is
or
trying
is
to use
reminded
it.
that it exists.
But it's like someone with a word a day, a calendar.
Yeah.
Like the way he betters himself is, I'm going to use that word. That's a good word. Yeah.
And this aggression will not stand, man.
She says sex is a zesty, rugged enterprise, which is the least appealing.
It's a male myth about feminists that we hate.
And then she puts on a porno tape, which the dude at first thinks she's just being weird, but she assures him there's a point to watching it. It's called Log Jammin'. Bunny's in it. And then Carl Hungus, a.k.a. Peter Stormare, the guy he's been dealing with about the kidnapping, comes in the scene in the porno. And one of my favorite dude lines that's apropos of nothing is he goes, oh, I know that guy. He's a nihilist. Because when he called him to threaten him on the phone, he said, you better be scared. I'm a nihilist. I don't believe in anything. We'll cut off your Johnson.
Your Johnson. I just want to point this out that there actually is a porn version of The Big Lebowski that was made by like Vivid Entertainment. And they're in that movie as a joke. There's a log jamming reference.
Uh-huh.
So if anyone can like put your brain around it, technically The Big Lebowski is a satirization of film noir.
Okay.
So what you would be watching if you were watching the log jamming sequence inside the porn movie would be a parody inside a parody inside a parody inside a parody of a satire.
Yeah.
Because it would be log jamming,
Right.
porn log jamming, porn movie, normal log jamming,
normal
movie.
which is a satire.
Satire.
Yeah. Moving on. Maud explains the bunny was cheating with Jackie Treehorn, who's another old creep. He's basically the who's the dead Playboy guy? He's a Hugh Hefner.
He's a Hugh Hefner, yeah.
And that blah blah blah. He was embezzling the money. Let's get through the plot. So she says now what she wants him to do is get the money back, and he goes, well, fuck. The money's in the trunk of my car, which was stolen, but I'll see what I can do. She sends him in a limo, which doesn't matter, to drive him back home. Oh, it does matter because the limo driver, this is one of my...
He gets 2 limos in the movie.
This is one of my favorite subversions of noir tropes, is in every other movie, the PI, of course, at some point would be in a cab or a limo, look in the rear view and say, oh shit, I'm being followed. We need to take evasive maneuvers. Instead, he stares in the rear view mirror the whole scene, and the limo stops, and the limo driver goes, hey, did you notice that blue beetle has been following us the whole time? And the dude goes, what? What are you talking about? Yeah. So that's how we first find out that, dun dun dun, someone is following the dude.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, whose interest is this in now? Because it could be Lebowski, it could be the Nihilist, it could be Jackie Treehorn, or it could be Maud.
Of course, it's
none of them, but we don't even find that out yet.
Yeah. It's John Polito.
Right. He immediately gets pulled into a second limo by the Big Lebowski. And Brandt and his thugs. And he lies immediately. He says, hey, man, we dropped off the money. I don't know what happens after that. And he says, things have come to light. A lot of ins, a lot of outs. I need more time to get to the bottom of this case, and suggests for the first time to Lebowski's face, has it ever occurred to you that maybe Bunny kidnapped herself? And says, of course they're going to say she didn't get the money because she wants more. Hasn't that ever occurred to you, man? I mean, sir? Sir? Lebowski gets obviously very livid and says, no, that had not occurred to me. And Brandt immediately says, that had not occurred to us, dude. Yeah. Like, I also love that Brandt's so polite that when the dude says, I prefer to be called the dude, he accepts it immediately and always refers to him as that. Later on, when they really think she's dead, Charles Durning will say, this is our concern. Her life was in your hands, dude. And Brandt goes, her life was in your hands. That's our concern, dude.
Yeah. I also want to point out that in terms of scenes, he's the most main character ever because he does exactly the same thing in both the scenes with Maud and the Big Lebowski.
He's Smithers.
He literally has the line with Maud Lebowski where he says, this is a very complicated case, Maud. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous, and a lot of strands to keep in my head, man. A lot of strands in old Duder's head.
A lot of strands in old Duder's head. Which is the Sherlock Holmes' way of saying the game is afoot.
Yeah.
So they obviously also want the money back and to find out where Bunny is. He says, can you give me the $20,000 finder's fee you promised me, even though I failed the mission? Which is just the balls on the dude.
Right.
And then they pull out an envelope full of cotton, and it has a human toe in it with the same nail polish that we saw on Bunny's foot. And Charles Durning's like, what now, dude? Obviously, Bunny was really kidnapped, and her life was in your hands, dude. Hard cut to coffee shop. Maybe the only time they don't mull something over while bowling, they mull it over at a coffee shop.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about that.
The diner counter scene could have been another bowling scene, but it's just not. I wonder why.
Is it because it's Saturday? Maybe it's
because it's Shabbos. He doesn't bowl on Shabbos.
He doesn't roll on Shabbos.
Oh, maybe because this is a scene where they discuss Shabbos, I believe. But the big takeaways from the scene are, yet again, Walter, the bad influence friend, is going to push the dude to do something stupid.
Yeah.
Which is basically, Walter still thinks Bunny kidnapped herself, leading to the classic line, that wasn't her toe, dude. What are you talking about? I'm saying that wasn't her toe. You want a toe? I can get you a toe, dude. Believe me, there are ways. You don't want to know about them, dude, but I can, by 3 o'clock this afternoon, I can bring you a toe with nail polish.
These fucking amateurs.
Yeah. He keeps saying that the kidnappers are fucking amateurs and they have to show them that they can outmaneuver them.
Also that they're nihilists.
And he goes, she could be dead. And he goes, no, dude. What we have here, it appears to me, is a series of victimless crimes. There's already been embezzlement. Someone's toe got cut off. Like, there's been victims.
But, yeah. But everyone did it to themselves in a way, like with their own stupidity.
Waitress asks Walter to lower his voice. He says it's his right to be as loud as he wants in the diner because, quote, I got buddies who died face down in the muck so you can enjoy this family establishment. So I'm staying. I'm finishing my coffee, enjoying my coffee. And the dude is like, leaves out of embarrassment. So that's how we get out of that sequence. We cut to the dude in the bathtub smoking a joint. The phone rings. Yet again, it's a voicemail. It's the LAPD saying they found his car. He chokes on his joint and almost drowns in the tub. Because this could solve all his problems.
Yeah.
That may be the only time the dude finds a clue as a private investigator. At the junkyard, he finds out his car's fucking totaled. The briefcase is gone. But in the back seat, there's a crumpled up piece of paper that's a D- homework assignment by some 11th grade snot-nosed kid.
Yeah.
So he and Walter decide to go put like
the hurt on him.
I love it again. Classic Noir is you finally got to get your hands dirty and torture someone for information. Theirs is a 14-year-old boy.
Larry Sellers.
Yeah. They show up at his house. You take it.
And they noticed a car. That's a nice car outside before they walk in, and they say that he's probably already spending money. Of course, that is going to not be his car. Wonderful performance by Larry Sellers, the little kid who just stares like absolutely emotionless as the dude and Walter sit down and talk to Larry in such a way that they literally say, we did not want you to like assume that we were cops, but they're very much acting like they're cops, and like Walter even is wearing a suit. Which
and
is
aviators, yeah. Which
every other scene, he's wearing like his typical
t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah. And but what's amazing is that just like any other scene with Walter, it jumps from this calmness of like, we just want to know where you put the briefcase, to straight up just screaming at a child.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Then now this is gonna happen.
By far the best interchange while it's escalating is these lines that can't make sense to Larry, they only make sense to us, the viewer.
Right.
Walter says, look, Larry, have you ever heard of Vietnam? We know it's your homework. And then the dude says, they'll cut your dick off, man. And like Larry can't know what they're referring to.
But he's unfazed, I want to mention. So finally he says, well, now this is happening. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. And then he
says
goes
that many times.
He says it many times because he runs out there, grabs a baseball bat from his car, and then starts going to town on this red Corvette that is not even Larry's car.
It's his neighbor.
It's his neighbor's car, who then steals the bat from Walter and starts beating the shit out of the dude's car.
You kill my car? Fuck you, I kill you car.
Also, of course, I think it's a meme at this point, but it's known to be one of the biggest like faux pas or memorable overdubs for censorship.
For the clean TV version.
Yeah, instead of this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass. If you watch the clean version, this is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps.
Yeah.
So
it's up there with
that
Die Hard's
exists.
hippie haiku mother trucker.
Doesn't? Yeah, exactly.
So that guy busts the dude's car up with a crowbar. I think another
Mr. Falcon.
Noir trope to pull out is usually the PI would get beat to shit over the course of the movie. I think his car embodies that. His car barely runs, but still does, and you see it progressively get beat more and more to shit. Dude on the phone with Walter at home. He's boarding up his door. He says, no, Walter, it did not look like Larry was about to crack. So clearly, like, Walter wants to pursue the case, and the dude doesn't. He goes, leave me the fuck alone, Walter. Yes, I'll be at bowling practice.
Right. They're still buddies.
Right. So then the guys from Jackie Treehorn, the thugs who
the
peed
original,
on his rug in the
Woo.
first scene, come and kidnap him and say, Jackie Treehorn wants to talk to you, Lebowski, and we know which Lebowski you are, Lebowski. We're not confusing you with the other Lebowski.
Which is still not true. Because they want to get money from Bunny.
Yeah, because Jackie Treehorn, that was true. She does owe Jackie Treehorn a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And now Jackie Treehorn's just wondering, look, I don't care if she's kidnapped or not kidnapped. Where the fuck is she? Where's my money? Yeah.
So we get an intro to Jackie Treehorn, which is like taken out of like the 60s. We mentioned Hugh Hefner. It starts
Playboy
with a
Mansion
slow
vibe.
motion trampoline scene with a woman who's topless as they like are having a psycho beach party kind of equivalent. And he lives in this like, I mean, it honestly looks like some Malibu glass.
Yeah.
You know, like he owns the entire beach.
Or like where they lived in The
area.
Incredibles too, if you saw that.
So now what we don't know yet is that he drugs the White Russian that the dude is drinking while talking to the dude to try to find out where Bunny is.
Which is funny because
now he doesn't know where Bunny is.
But the dude already told him the complete truth, which is funny. Before he drugged him, he goes, "Where's my money?" And he goes, "Oh, well, it's this kid, Larry Sellers. We got his address.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have luck, but I'm sure your thugs could beat it out of him." And as he's passing out, Treehorn's like, 15-year-old kid, you think I'm going to believe that shit? I know you have the money, Lebowski.
Mm-hmm.
We know he doesn't.
Right. Which then turns into a drug-addled dream sequence, which is one of the best dream sequences on film ever, but I'm going to blip right past it because I think
Pedagogy.
it actually has meaning.
Yeah.
So he wakes up and he's in police custody now because
He's running down the
Treehorn.
street.
He's running down the street.
Being chased by police, which means
Treehorn like let him go.
But I just want to know what drug he was on, that he can have that dream and yet come to running from police down the street.
Don't know. And
Roughed
then
up by the sheriff.
The sheriff, which I want to read. There's just some great
lines in there. Yeah.
The guy who plays the sheriff of Malibu,
which is where Jackie Treehorn lives, presumably.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Treehorn, this is the dude. Mr. Treehorn treats objects like women, man. And then the police chief, Mr. Treehorn draws a lot of water in this town. You don't draw shit, Lebowski. Now, we got a nice, quiet little beach community here, and I aim to keep it nice and quiet. So let me make something plain. I don't like you sucking around, bothering our citizens, Lebowski. I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. I don't like your jerk-off behavior. And I don't like you, jerk-off. Do I make myself clear? The dude, after a pause, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. And then he throws a cup at him.
The sheriff throws an empty coffee mug at his head, and it just right off the dome. Bang.
Yeah, it's like a very clean
Stay
hit.
out of Malibu, Lebowski. Stay out, deadbeat. Also, I love at the beginning of that scene, the first line is this the only ID you have? And he has his Ralph's Club card. Is the dude's only form of ID.
Which we knew because that he was
the
probably in a
scene
Ralph's.
was him buying Ralph's.
Which is just great. Like once again, no loose ends on the old Duderino.
So the dude comes home to find his place trashed. Another classic film noir trope.
Right.
Julianne Moore is there. Just like in his dream, she's upside down. Like they copy the shot, which I liked. She just says, "Jeffrey, love me." So they bone. So the femme fatale and the PI have finally consummated their relationship. But undermining the trope yet again, she quickly reveals that she just needs a sperm donor and she wants to have a child and she wants nothing to do with him and is not attracted to him.
And he
at
doesn't
all.
like that. He protests the idea of being a father.
Yeah.
But Maud is like, you're not going to be involved.
Yeah. I also love when they're making pillow talk. He talks about his accomplishments in life, and they're all like related to fake hippie shit. Like I was at this protest.
Yeah.
I did that. And he goes,
You ever hear?
"You remember the Seattle 7?
Yeah.
That was me. And 6 other guys."
Yeah. It's just a great, which is actually true.
Uh-huh.
There's I guess we'll get into that
get
later.
into it.
There's an actual guy that they based it around.
Oh, we'll get to that. I was briefly in the music industry. What instrument? Roadie, Metallica. So he tells her about Larry Sellers. He's basically sicking everyone on Larry Sellers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look, he has some money, man. It's not my fault. And then could you give me a finder's fee for telling you where the money is? He finally leaves his apartment, smoking a joint early in the morning or twilight, I can't tell. And he sees the Blue Beetle. And I guess he's feeling himself because he just had coitus. So he decides to confront the guy who's been following him. Again, this goes nowhere. Yanks the guy out of his car, is like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you doing? Are you Treehorn's guy? Are you Lebowski's guy? Are you Maud Lebowski's guy?
He's none.
And he's like, no, Bunny's parents hired me to show her this house of her horrible home farm in Kansas because they want her to come home. She ran away from home at 18 and became a porn star.
Yeah.
I'm just hired to like try and guilt trip her into coming home.
Yeah, but I love that he thinks that all like the dude is like a master at being a private dick. Like he's like, I love that you're playing one side after another and stuff like that. Like he thinks it's all intentional. So John Polito, who's just this guy who's just been following around, is essentially the audience member without all of the specifics that we got.
Yeah.
The fact that he's just the dude.
It's all lies. Yeah.
He's never actually met him.
So the dude, I was wrong when I said he only has one deductive leap. This is his other deductive leap in the film. The dude finally realizes that Lebowski probably picked him because he knew he'd fuck up and doesn't want Bunny back.
Yeah.
And he goes and tells Walter, which is, why does he constantly tell Walter anything? This time it's because he needs a ride because his car doesn't work. But still, I would call Donnie. He says, you know, Lebowski didn't have money of his own. He probably gave us an empty briefcase, hoping that the ransom was real and that the kidnappers would kill Bunny. Then another person who knew about his embezzlement would be a tied up end.
Right.
He could get in like a payout from the insurance company, blah, blah, blah. So Walter, you threw out a ringer for a ringer, which also explains why Larry Sellers was so calm and didn't have any major purchases. All he found was an empty briefcase. He really didn't ever find the money.
And then on top of that, we immediately find out that Bunny didn't even kidnap herself. She just took an unannounced trip.
Right. So he goes to Lebowski's mansion to confront him, and Bunny is there, having drunkenly crashed her Corvette into the fountain, and she has 10 toes.
Because her friends, the nihilists, faked the kidnapping and were trying to extort money from Lebowski.
And they never even kidnapped her. It's the equivalent of, they're her close friends. She said, fuck my husband, I'm going to Vegas for 6 weeks. And amongst themselves, they decided, she didn't tell anyone. We could do a fake kidnapping, and maybe the big Lebowski will give us money.
Also,
so nothing was anything. Nothing ever happened.
In order to pull this off, one of I think Flea's girlfriend had to...
No, it's the tall, skinny guy. The one who I don't know his name.
His girlfriend, played by Amy Mann, by the way.
Yep.
They cut her toe off.
Right. So now they're dead set on getting some money, which is hilarious. Because they feel like they deserve it.
Right.
Like, my girlfriend cut off her toe, we should get some money. And he's like, but you didn't kidnap anyone. You have no leverage. And they're like, fuck you, give us money. My girlfriend cut her toe off. So basically, first though, at the Lebowski mansion, he confronts the big Lebowski, and he basically lays out everything we just said. Lebowski refuses to admit it. He says, you have your story and I have mine. The dude says, you liar, you human paraquat, which is not even a word.
Yeah, which is the only improv in the entire movie.
Oh, is it? You human paraquat?
It was invented on
it's not a word.
Take, and very rare in a Coen Brothers movie.
You liar, man.
Jeff Bridges got one in.
You human paraquat.
The Coen Brothers loved it, and they let it in. Usually, if there's improv, they don't.
And Walter,
you never see it.
Walter, who he foolishly brought with him, does a joke we've seen many times now, I think, in various shows. But it's like, I bet he's not even handicapped, dude. Lifts him up. He falls over. He clearly was. Handicapped. That was true.
Yeah.
So
just to make them look extra the fool.
Everything's over. The last thing is that they got disqualified from the bowling tournament because Walter pulled a gun. Cut to them commiserating at the bowling alley. Basically, the dude explains how everything was nothing, like, in case you didn't follow the plot. And they're like, well, fuck it. There's nothing to do. Let's go bowling. They finish bowling, walk to the parking lot, and the dude's car is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he
the
says,
nihilist did it.
Well, they did it. They finally fucking killed my car. They meaning like just events.
Yeah, just all the people against the dude.
But in this case, it was the nihilists who, as we said, they want money, Lebowski. And one of them very humorously drops a ferret in the bathtub that claws at him. And that's, of course, when they scream, we'll fuck you, Lebowski. We'll fuck you. We'll cut off your Johnson.
One of my favorite lines is when Walter because he's just so angry that they're nihilists because they have no principles. Because in an
Which is not
earlier
what
scene,
nihilism means, by the way.
right? In an earlier scene, Walter says, "Nihilist, fuck me. I mean, say what you want about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos."
Right. So he's saying it's better to be a Nazi because you believe in something.
Yeah.
He's like,
So
nihilist.
He
fuck
hates
me.
the
Yeah.
nihilists, so he just goes immediately ham when he sees that they've killed his car.
I do like, so when they're squaring off, there's great lines. My girlfriend gave
fuck
up
you.
a toe for $1 million. It's not fair. And Walter goes, not fair? Who's the fucking nihilist around here?
Yeah.
Like, if anyone should be able to accept that just a bunch of random shit happened, it's you. Donnie, of course, is not up to speed, so he asks, are these Nazis, Walter? No, Donnie, these men are nihilists. There's nothing to fear. Are you sure? Are they going to hurt us, Walter? No, Donnie, these men are cowards.
So great.
And it paints an image. One of the nihilists, played by Flea, holds up a boombox that plays German techno.
Yeah.
The other one attacks them, I think, with a sword.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And the other one has a ferret on a leash.
Peter Stormare.
They demand just the cash you have on you. They
Yeah,
talk
that'll
them
be
down.
fine. From $1 million.
They're like
to-
$1 million, and then they're like, the original ransom was only 80. All right, give us 80,000. We don't have that. All right, just give us the money you have on you.
Also, the fighting is amazing because like the dude fights the tall, lanky one with the ferret who just keeps kicking the air and saying, "I fuck you, I fuck you,
I fuck you in the ass. I fuck you.
but Walter takes care of most of the people first by throwing a bowling ball at Flea's nuts, which just
Chest.
which just immediately takes him down,
Crushes his ribcage.
and then he bites Peter Stormare's ear off.
And then the guy
And spits it out into the
guy
air.
the dude is grappling with, he caves his skull in with the boombox as it's playing German techno.
So like Walter just immediately just dispels all three of these guys.
yeah.
Only to be revealed that during the scuffle, we weren't focused on Donnie, who has had a heart attack. And as they call 911, we kind of jump to
Oh, he's dead.
they're in a funeral parlor picking out urns.
Yes, and yet again, Walter causes a scene because they had X amount of money to pay for the funeral. They just want an urn and a cremation because it's all they can afford. And the guy's like, the urn is $180. It is our most modestly priced receptacle.
Mm-hmm.
And Walter is like, I refuse to get ripped off again by these motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Da Nang? Have you heard of? And the dude is like, just stop, man. Is there a Ralph's around here? So third Ralph's
What does
drop
fucking anything have to
in
do
the
with
movie.
Vietnam?
Yeah. So they buy a coffee can
Yeah.
and
Like
put
a
Donnie's
Folgers.
ashes in a coffee can. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a little funeral on the cliffs on the shore.
Which
for
we
Donnie.
learned for the first time that Donnie was not only a great bowler, but also apparently a good surfer.
Yeah.
He'd surfed all the way up and down the coast of California, which was just a detail left out of the movie
That's
until this
why
point.
they're putting his ashes there.
And
Yeah.
also the only two things that we know, because Donnie is a non-character, so like he doesn't do anything. We know that he bowls and we know that he surfs, and
Yeah.
that's apparently all that Walter knows as well, who's his
Yeah.
closest friend.
Well, he knows he died young because he says, but his life was cruelly cut short. You claimed it, as you claimed the lives of so many of our men in Da Nang and Sai Pao. And, he's like, and the dude goes, damn it, Walter, man, you asshole. Everything's a fucking travesty with you, man, which is the best possible word. Everything's a travesty with
travesty.
you. What the fuck does anything have to do with Vietnam? Walter releases the ashes, which if you know how the wind on a cliff by the ocean works, they blow all
Spits
back
right back into the dude.
in the dude's
Yeah.
face. And he just goes, oh, dude. And the dude flips out on him. Walter, I think the only tender
Walter
moment of the movie,
hugs him.
does the thing where it's like, I'm going to hug you, and even if you push me away, I'm going to keep hugging you. And the dude finally hugs him back. And he says, fuck it, dude. Let's
Fucking
go
man,
bowling.
Let's go bowling.
Yeah.
At the bowling alley, we meet the stranger played by Sam Elliott.
We've reached our bookend. The cowboy
who
man is back.
explains that sometimes the bear. He says the bar. It sounds like bar. I've talked to people about this, but like the scripted version is bear.
Which is an old
It's
cowboy
like a-
expression, and it's
yeah.
confusing because the scene is at a bar.
Right.
You have to look up the script.
And
Yeah.
the line is sometimes you eat the bar and sometimes the bar eats you, and it's not a like at first when my first viewing of it I thought I was like is this like about alcoholism or something, and I was like no, it's just talking about how day to day sometimes the bear, the proverbial little like challenge of life
Wins,
wins,
and
and
sometimes
sometimes you win some, you lose some.
You win some, you lose some. They run the gamut from hilarious to gruesome. In my life, I done caught some and threw some, but I done been in some shit, and this is one that I would never forget. So Sam Elliott, Brother Ali, Sam Elliott.
I just thought you were just talking
no,
and
no,
it
no.
happened to rhyme.
I wrote this down, so I'll take it. And I like that the dude has his own version of that expression. How's it going, dude? Strikes and gutters, ups and downs. Gotta get back. Sure, take it easy, duder. I know you will. Yeah, well, the dude abides. Huh. The dude abides. Then he turns to camera and says, but man, Sam Elliott may have made me laugh the most in this watch through. He's so funny, the beginning and ending. The dude abides. I don't know about you, but I take comfort in that. It's good knowing he's out there. The dude, taking her easy for all us sinners. I sure hope he makes the bowling finals. Well, that about does her. Wraps her all up. Things seem to have worked out pretty good for the dude and Walter. And it was a pretty good story, don't you think? Some parts were good to beat the band. Didn't like to see Donnie go. And at this point, you're like, is this a review of the movie? Yeah. But then again, it's nice to know there's a little Lebowski on the way. Of course, that's how the whole human comedy perpetuates itself. Down through time, traveling the plains with... Well, look at me, I'm rambling again. Bartender, you got any more of that good sarsaparilla? And that's the end of Big Lebowski.
Because he's just Yosemite Sam. It's just a delightful little exit to that movie.
Yes. And now that we're into pedagogy, my first question is, why, or does there have to be a reason, or is there no reason? How does the fact that the opener and closer are so Western themed connect to Noir or Los Angeles or the dude? Why? It makes me laugh, so it's great. But why have a Western tinge?
Because
in the middle of the movie, it doesn't feel like a Western. It feels like a noir.
I think it's just tone. I think it's the fact that Los Angeles is a desert, but it's a unique desert because it's been most of what people actually see and think of when they go to Los Angeles is it's all roads. Like there's no like animals here and stuff, even though it's just because we ran them out of there. And it's just like LA is a very strange place. It's also kind of Las Vegas-y in that it's like everything's shining in lights. There's a 70s vibe down to the car, the clothes, even though it's in 91. There's a lot of...
But like if you parse it, it doesn't need to be.
But it doesn't need to be, no.
I was wondering if maybe there's something to like... Because the way he invites you to imagine the dude is... He is totally emblematic of the late 80s Los Angeles slacker. Like he is the iconic one. That's why we're following him. And Sam Elliott is the iconic cowboy. So maybe it's like someone who was the iconic person of their time telling the tale of the next one or another one in the future. I don't know.
That's not bad, Reed. That's not bad.
But it doesn't like... I do think this movie is a slacker of a script, by which I mean... All the time the Coens say they just sit down and write whatever comes to their minds, and most of the time I don't believe them. Like Hudsucker, fuck you. Serious Man, fuck you. But when if they said, we just thought it would be funny, I would believe them for this script. I'd be like, maybe they just realized that would be hilarious.
Because it's the theme of the thing. I mean, that's several artists and filmmakers who are so good at what they can do are able to break the systems that are typical convention of like you cannot do that. And the big one that they do in this is if you subtract Donnie from the movie and likewise
Jesus.
Many scenes as well, nothing really changes except for the fact that they have a scene at the end about his death. He is an audience member. He's not an actual like character,
right?
And
Which
he's
I think,
doing nothing, which is one of the cardinal sins of screenwriting.
Yeah. Whereas in a true noir, the character that dies, the reason you'd feel the loss is because they were so core to all the events that unfolded.
Right. But
he's just there.
But it works for this movie in the way that you were saying, because largely this movie is about plots not being motivated to get to the next level. Like if it's a dungeon crawler to get into the next room, the dude often is just like, someone Deus Ex Machina the shit out of this, and now you're here. Now you're in a limo. Now you got drugged.
Yeah, someone calls you or literally sends people who physically take you to the next scene. Like, it's always just sit back and wait to see what happens.
There are 3 exchanges where the dude speaks directly to Donnie because he mainly ignores him. The first is in the bowling alley at the beginning where Donnie asks, "What are we talking about?" Twice. Mm-hmm. He says it twice because no one answers response, the first time. The dude finally responds, "My rug!" Twice. The second is the dude who's walking home from the bowling alley. Donnie asks, "Where you going, dude?" To which he says, "Home, Donnie." And then Donnie says, "Phone's ringing, dude." And the dude responds, "Thank you, Donnie." Lastly, when Donnie asks, "They were Nazis, dude?" The dude replies, "No, Donnie, they were nihilists. They kept saying they believed in nothing."
Yeah.
So, like, all 3 exchanges with the dude are repetitions of information we already know, or
Donnie has to get caught up to speed.
And then a final...
Even down to the microcosm of everyone's favorite interchange, Lenin. It's just like Lenin. "I am the walrus, dude."
I'm the walrus.
Yeah, no, but Lenin said, "I am the walrus." Donnie! V.I. Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov. So Donnie always misunderstands and is asking for things we already know to be explained to him.
Right. And so, of course, in this movie where nothing really does have substance, I mean, obviously things do because events happen, but it's unhinged and people are really participants necessarily, or at least the dude isn't. It makes sense that his friend was completely non sequitur to the film.
Yeah. I also fucking love how brutal and how sharp the tone shift is when the inciting incident unfolds. You're like, this movie's so good at, like, when the thugs come in, smash his head into the toilet bowl over and over and over, like that drowning in the toilet thing. And the imagery's so well conceived. He spills half and half everywhere. It, like, blood splatters across the bathroom. They say, "Where's the money, Lebowski?" And he says, "I think it's down there somewhere. Let me take another look." So they keep slamming his head in the toilet. And they finally let him get up and sit on the toilet. And he just puts his sunglasses on, even though he's covered in half and half toilet water and indoors and it's night. And that postcard is like, you could put a good, the bad, and the ugly, like, the dude on it.
Right.
Like, that's like, and here's the dude. Yeah.
Sitting on a toilet.
And the shit has happened. Yeah.
So I actually just found this. Ethan Coen said, in reference to your question about Los Angeles, Ethan Coen said, "We wanted something that would generate a certain narrative feeling, like a modern Raymond Chandler story, who's a playwright and a novelist who
was noir focused, not Western
very
focused.
well known as noir. Yeah, and that's why it had to be set in Los Angeles. We wanted a narrative flow, a story like a Chandler book through different parts of town and different social classes. But the use of the stranger's voiceover, Joel said, he's a bit like an audience substitute. In the movie adaptation of Chandler, it's the main character that speaks off screen. We didn't want to reproduce that, though. It obviously has echoes. So I think what he's trying to say is that
we ripped it off, but we tweaked it.
We don't like the idea that dude would do that.
Oh, the dude would not narrate.
Like, it would have problems.
He's too lazy.
Yeah,
to
he's
narrate
too lazy
the
to
movie.
narrate.
Yeah.
It's as if someone was commenting on the plot from an all-seeing point of view, and at the same time rediscovering the old earthiness of a Mark Twain.
Well, clearly, because by the end he's saying, "Wasn't that a good movie?"
Yeah, as we go through time, and that's the story as it goes. You know, it's so it doesn't exactly answer the Western question, but it does make sense that it's about he's a generational, like, everyman. The cowboy of that generation was an everyman of that time. You know, for the 50s and 60s especially.
And this is early 90s.
And this
LA,
is early 90s LA, and it's like saying this is the archetypal guy, just person. The dude, yeah.
The man. Did you notice that as the tumbleweed comically rolls into the ocean, and when they go from beating him up in his apartment to him being at Jackie Treehorn's place, it does the Barton Fink crossfade.
Oh,
Very similar to the like we go from
that's right.
We go from like Atwater Village to Malibu with the exact same crossfade to like a postcard shot of the waves.
Right. That's fucking right. There's a funny little trivia bit about the Coen brothers in an interview. Were asked about like what it meant, because this has become like there are conventions. There's like Lebowski Con and like dress up contests, and it's a whole cult. And there's even a website and a community, like a forum called like the Tao of the Dude or something like that, I believe. And it was all based on this guy who I actually met once. His name's Jeff Dowd, and he's the actual
Jeff Dude.
He's the actual dude.
How did they meet him and like come to write a thing based on him?
He was a producer for a time.
On Coen projects or projects
not on
that
Coen, I think coming up earlier, just like they met through a party.
Because they were career
and
editors
the guy,
before Blood Simple, yeah.
I don't know the guy well. I've talked to him like once, and then later someone was like, that's the dude, and he looks like the dude. I mean, he looks like him. First off,
so you're Donnie, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess I'm
You
Donnie.
don't matter in his life.
I don't
but
matter.
You know him.
Yeah. But what's crazy is that like when the Seattle 7 and stuff like that, that's like apparently like true shit. Like
from this
guy
life.
would talk about that kind of stuff according to the Coen brothers.
Yeah.
And he would drink White Russians and like invite you to his house or whatever, and he would just wear a robe. So it's like the attitude. So the Coen brothers basically took the attitude of someone that they met and were like, that's a fucking interesting thing. We should make that into a fucking movie, I guess. Same thing happened with...
well, they probably had that thought. They probably thought, man, that guy is the most... They probably thought, man, that guy's the most emblematic late 90s LA guy we've ever met.
Right.
And that could have sparked the whole movie for all we know.
And it's another thing with the Jesus is that was on like Miller's Crossing and Barton Fink. We talked about this recently on another podcast. They were just joking around set about like he did that accent, John Turturro, and they were just like they just started Rolodexing like things like what are other things that the Jesus would be, and it just became a set meme. Eventually, at one point, someone said like. Also, he's a sex offender. Yeah. And then they placed him in Big Lebowski. So they wrote characters like this just off
one of the other noir tropes that I think is so great is Julianne Moore. There's Echoes of Chinatown, which, if you haven't seen it, maybe skip 30 seconds ahead because spoiler alert for the twist in Chinatown, which you should see. Instead of finding out that the evil old man is even more powerful than you could have imagined, and he's amassing more power, and he abused his daughter, in this you find out that the evil old man is pathetic and powerless, and his daughter's very competent and fine, and she's running everything anyway. Are you surprised at my tears, sir? Strong men also cry.
Strong men.
Strong men also cry.
Also cry.
And then that's from the scene where he says Bunny was just kidnapped, which I love. The dude's off the dome response is, kidnapped? Fucking A. It's a bummer. Bummer, man. That is a bummer.
That's a bummer while he's reading
Well, he's smoking a joint, and he's too high to read the ransom note. He's like, leave the money. He's reading it like a stoned guy. Yeah. Calmer than you are. Oh, I also want to point out, neither of us mentioned, there's a line, because I underestimated how cruel Walter is to Donnie, because Donnie never reacts. So, he doesn't just say, shut the fuck up. Walter at one point says, when he says, Walter, what are you guys talking about? Walter responds, life does not stop and start at your convenience, you miserable piece of shit.
Yeah, it's real.
Why are they friends?
And I love Buscemi's choice just to not react to it. Just he's kind of taken back, but he doesn't respond.
Can we take a moment to appreciate, because we haven't yet in Coen Brothers, and it'll come up more and more as we go on, especially Oh Brother. One of their best tricks is when they go looking for extras, they look for people who look archetypal or unique. They do not look for the type of extras that blend into the background you always see in every show or movie.
Yeah.
The extras in the fucking bowling scenes are so perfectly cast. Take a look at those extras. I mean, they intro the bowling alley for the first time by cutting to that dude's gut, who's the Jesus's bowling partner. And it's a glorious gut. And that guy got cast for that perfectly round bowler's belly. He looks like a fucking bowler.
You know who that is, right?
No. Sam Raimi.
That's not just any extra.
No, who is it?
In Deadwood.
The guy with the buzz cut?
He's the captain.
Which captain?
Captain. I forget what his name is.
What's his function? I don't remember him.
He is the enforcer who fights Dan Doherty in season 3.
He's not Dan Doherty, but he's the guy he fights.
He's the guy who gets his eye popped
in the best
out.
fight of all time. Don't spoil it.
All right,
But anyway, back to I just got to get to Jesus out of my system. Can we just chalk it up to the Western thing where again they're like, we had this character kicking around. He'll work in this movie and no other movie, and it's funny, so put it in?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Most of the time, we'll try to get up our asses with, like, artistic analysis, but I think the Lebowski defies that a little bit.
Well, yeah. The only ones that exist are ones that are, like, intentional, like, abuses of information or just being wrong.
But I don't want to read into shit that you can tell they didn't even mean for you to read into.
So it's like kind of this weird slope where it's like, what does that mean? Well, nothing means anything in this. Yeah, but usually when it means nothing, it's like very specific, and they're not specific always. Like, for example, one of my favorite ones is there's two animals in the film, if you can even remember. The nihilists have a marmot, which is actually a ferret.
Yeah.
Like
but they
the
call
actual
it a
animal is,
yeah.
But they call it a marmot, or at least the dude does. And then Cynthia's, or Walter's
the
ex-wife,
guy with the marmot, man,
says that he has a Pomeranian, but when we see it, it's a terrier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a nod to like the dude's inactivity to the story in general, kind of like coming back to the center. He's just ambling through shit. He's wrong sometimes, most of the time. But in the same way that the thugs are wrong that he's the Big Lebowski. Like, people are wrong very specifically.
Yeah. I think they're just like, no, moment to moment, this monologue is funny. Just appreciate the jokes in it. Yeah.
Don't you think it's kind of weird that there's kind of like a psychological thing with Maud wanting a baby with a man who has the same name as, like...
Literally first and last, Jeff Lebowski.
Her father. And
never occurred to me.
That's kind of weird.
And I mean, she has him sent.
Does that mean anything?
She has him sent to a doctor. I think it could be a Chinatown echo, but it's the reverse of the classic Chinatown.
Oh, that's clever.
She impregnated herself via her father intentionally. If you reverse every adjective in that sentence, you have Chinatown.
Whoa.
So that could be it. But it's interesting she would pick him at all. Like, he doesn't even seem like strong genetic material. But whatever.
She kind of offhandedly says at one point.
She sent him to the doctor and had him checked out.
Like, I like what your deal is, so your sperm will be fine.
Yeah. She doesn't seem that concerned. She's like, sperms, I just need some sperm.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's talk about the seminal piece of score, Man in Me. Did you hear? 2 cum jokes in that sentence.
That's Man in Me.
Man in Me. That the dream sequences. Again, I'm part of me just wants to say they just put them in because they thought that would be fun. That's not true in Hudsucker, but it might be true here. Oh, good. Abe has a theory. You'll save the podcast. Because if you've seen it, you remember these elaborate, very cool, avant-garde, like, they combine all the things of the movie. Like, you can tell that it's the dude's psyche because it combines bowling and Maud's influence and literally things he's seen in the background of scenes come into his consciousness. Like, he saw a topless chick on a trampoline, so now that's in the dream. And they all sort of mold together into these weird dreams that are usually the song Man and Me. There's another song that they use a lot, too. That's him bowling and looking at naked chicks. Abe, what's it mean? Break it down for us.
Well, it's less of a meaning and more of a
strategy.
There's just a lot of strands going on in this old duder's head. So Maud's an artist, right?
Yeah.
She's also the femme fatale.
And the dream sequences feel like art she could have made.
And she has like a point, right? She's very like, I guess it would be called like feminist art, but it's abstraction. Like, she paints with abstraction. It doesn't, the method matters kind of thing. Because I would say there's like little mini sequences. Like, there's one where he like kind of dances as he walks out. Mm-hmm. He has this kind of saunter out. And he's got like, they do like the Dracula shot or Nosferatu shot where it's like, his shadows on the wall.
Big, but then he's
and everything's
tiny.
Like kind of, they're aping a lot of different types of art styles. And I think that that's just the dude being like, he's into Maud. Maud's an artist. He's dreaming about art shit. Also, the fact that
in this dream I get to see her cooch. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just this idea that he's on drugs, at least for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be a little leeway in terms of meaning because it's supposed to be drug-addled. Mm-hmm. But I do think that they intentionally chose just random art pieces to coincide with the idea of the randomness of his brain. Random pulls, this aggression will not stand, man. He's doing the same thing with like art. Just like he doesn't really know about how anything works. He just is pulling pieces of memory that he has and says that and just repeats it.
Why do we want that level of insight into his psyche for the purposes of this story?
I mean,
why see his dreams?
I think just stylistic approach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have an answer for you on that one. Like, I don't think the Coens do either. I think there's no dream sequences in film noir. There's no dream sequences in westerns.
Not super notable ones.
It's not like a trope or anything.
No.
I think if anything, it has to deal with the Jackie Treehorn. I mentioned like the Psycho Beach Party kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like it's evocative of the generation where there would be dream sequences because everyone was fucking doing LSD. I think that there's something there just in the dude's generation that's like what they would do. But as other than a tonal thing, I don't think that there's any rhyme or reason. I think it's just
they're beautiful.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Deakins fucking kills it. And well, I guess that's how do you do that? How do you get a shot of a fucking POV shot of a bowling
rolling
ball
a
that
strike
rolls
and
over
you're
itself?
the ball. Yeah, you Buster Keaton a bowling ball hole.
I'll explain that.
I really like. We called out this line earlier, but in my notes I have the extension of it. Speaking of the marmot, the line you said earlier, nihilist, Jesus. I mean, say what you will about National Socialism, at least it's an ethos. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, dude, the keeping wildlife. I mean, an amphibious rodent within the city. That ain't legal either.
I want to point out, I want to ask you a question about what do you think it means, or do you think I'm wrong in conveying it this way? There's a lot of talk about the nihilists and about like having no dream or consciously choosing to will nothing is another way of saying a nihilist, like just not believing in anything.
Yeah.
Your main character he's not a participant in his own thing, and he just simply abides. Isn't the dude a nihilist? A little bit?
I don't know. I'd have to hear him espouse his beliefs, which he never does.
But he wills nothing.
He has no spiritual dimension whatsoever,
right.
I would say. He just abides. No more,
like he's
no less.
he's a philosophical, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think he represents a philosophy. I think he's like an animal. Like just doing what comes up. He's like a dog, like a lazy old dog.
Just a mirror of the
dog.
apparent chaos and meaninglessness of the universe.
Unless Sam Elliott's his inner monologue, because that gives this whole weird dimension of like, he's walking around with this old wise cowboy in his head telling him stuff. I mean, because I think you can interpret Sam Elliott as a guardian angel if you want. Only he ever sees him.
Right.
Well, the off-screen bartender seems to respond to Sam Elliott. So I guess that debunks that.
I also think that Maud is like flirts with nihilism too.
Definitely.
Because she's like the cynical snob elite type. And she looks down on like the ignorant people.
Yeah.
And the artwork is like it doesn't represent, like it's so abstract it doesn't like represent anything to anyone who would be like, what's that painting about? Well, you have to know a thing about, she paints out of her vagina.
Yeah.
You know, like it doesn't really like, oh, that's a flower, oh, that's a tree, you know, like you don't. So I don't know, obviously she has a point, but I just think all the main characters have an element of nihilism. Because the Big Lebowski, he's just a puppet. He doesn't have, he has all these philosophies.
Walter doesn't believe in consequences, and Donnie doesn't actually exist in any real way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just something I noticed. Also, I don't know why they chose the opening sequence in Ralph's where it's George H.W. Bush. It was in 91, and it's about the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait.
This aggression will not stand.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. Weird thing
It could
is
just
that
be
he
to
posts.
set the time period real fast.
Yeah, someone pointed out online. The dude post dates his check.
Oh, that's amazing catch. Whoever saw that.
Yeah, and
it's a great detail that
he
pays with a check for half and half, and he needs some time to get the money in that account.
Yeah, exactly. For half and half.
I'll just say this: if you like Sam Elliott's character in this, I think he compares very interestingly to the character of Hank Grit from the Scud comic. Scud, also apropos of nothing, although later it's tied in, but it seems like a retcon. His guardian angel that only he can see is Hank Grit, who's like a Clint Eastwood type, who's just speaks to him.
What's Scud's partner in crime?
Susudio? Hank Grit turns out to be her dad, but that's not really a spoiler. It doesn't affect that much. But I mean, that's how he nominally, in the end, you're like, why was he here this whole time? I guess he's related to one of the main characters, you know?
So when we first see the two Treehorn thugs, Wu and the other guy, and they pee on the rug, and then we see him later, he's knocked out again, and then they see him at his house, like they exit. Those are the only two times we see them. Just to show how interchangeable they are as directors, I just thought it was an amazing choice. They switched their shirts.
Oh, the two guys?
Yeah.
The thugs switch their shirts?
They switch their shirts. That's all they do.
Just to show
they're wearing the same pants, but he's now wearing his shirt and Wu's now wearing the other guy's shirt.
Speaking of the rugs, I also love something I only noticed this time. He's explaining to Jackie Treehorn, it's just this kid, this shitty kid, he just wanted my car. All I really want is my rug. It really tied the room together. And as he passes out, he spills a white Russian on Jackie Treehorn's rug. So he's ruining a rug at the same time.
He's ruining a rug, yeah.
And I think that's all I got. I had ties to other movies, but we plug enough shit. We can get into Howdy Do That.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many bits that we haven't mentioned them all, like the noir subversion of the hard-on drawing. But if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about.
God, yeah, that's so fucking funny.
Yeah, the Landlord's Dance Quintet, we haven't even gotten to.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Which is a great spiritual precedent to the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou theater scene, I realized.
Yeah.
Same like comedy trick. It's that's when they find Larry Sellers. I found this kid. He lives near the In-N-Out Burger. Those are good burgers, Walter. Shut the fuck up, Donnie. Turns out the kid's dad wrote a bunch of episodes of Branded. Bulk of the series. Oh, yeah. Not exactly a lightweight. No. And then we'll get burgers, Walter. Shut the fuck up, Donnie. But yes, we'll watch the What Have Yous, and then we'll get some burgers.
The What Have Yous. How'd he do that?
How did he do that? You were going to tell us how the bowling scene was shot.
Yeah, to get the point of view. So there's a shot in the dream sequence where it's like the bowling ball is in the gutter, and it's the shot before he gets sucked up into one of the holes of the bowling ball. And it's a point of view shot where you see what the bowling ball is seen as it goes through the lane, and then through the machine behind the lane, and then into the gutter to get back to...
If you were sitting inside one of the holes looking out of it.
Which is also another shot that happens at the beginning of the movie when they just intro Welcome to Bowling in the first bowling sequence. The way they did that is they actually built two little... like the two adjacent lanes in order to get like the... gutter. They had like these two little carts, and then attached between the two little carts, drilled through the bowling ball, was basically a barbecue spit. So it could rotate as it rolled, and they were kind of contingent on the same thing, so you could adjust the speed and stuff like that,
and it would always roll straight down the middle.
And it would, you could always, and then put the camera on the rig or above the rig, mounted, so you're looking over the ball, and they use that for all those shots. So if they wanted to make it like you are the bowling ball, they would just replace the bowling ball with the camera.
But
if
they wanted the bowling ball to be in frame,
if you wanted the bowling ball spinning, and you're kind of behind the POV of the bowling ball, but still going in the same direction, which they do several times, they just would clamp it down to one of the carts and put the camera mounted onto the barbecue
and let the whole rig slide down
and
the
then
lane.
You and just need people who drive it.
The POV shot out the hole. You cut a bowling ball in half and shoot through one of the holes, right?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Same thing. Anytime you ever see a locker shot or a fridge shot, in
It's
any
cut in
movie,
half, yeah.
that fridge don't work anymore.
Because the camera can't fit. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I
people
mean,
forget
again,
that cameras.
There's nature documentaries
yeah.
where they have film and cameras inside.
You can have a
anthills,
GoPro. There's GoPros, but
but,
usually
it won't look good enough for a film.
if it's on TV or
exactly.
movies, it's probably at least 4 feet by 4 feet, like a 4-foot cube. Think of 4-foot cube. All of that space is gone.
Yeah. Oh, he says to the guy in the iron lung, "Do you still write?"
Do you still write? That's right.
And a good day to you, sir. Yeah. You're carrying this whole segment. I got
The
nothing.
scene where Walter throws the ringer out of the window, which is a perfect throw. It's the one where it's the high, wide, and stupid
Yeah.
shot of the car.
It's a funny throw.
It's a funny throw, and it spins perfectly straight
Towards
up.
camera,
but
so you get the
also
silhouette of a
lands
bag.
also lands right where you can see the guy in the motorcycle.
And it doesn't roll, it just lands and stops.
Yeah, so it's like a perfect throw. They tried doing it normally, and there's no fucking way that a stunt driver could drive a car, throw it, and then they tried.
They take
They tried to take
100 takes.
what if we
yeah.
had a guy in the back that we dress in
Throws it,
black
the
and
other
does
guy
the throwing
drives,
it,
yeah.
and then so they try to, and this is the kind of shit that the Coen brothers, for all the things that we say about them, one of our favorite things, one of the reasons I think we both think that they're amazing, is that they're absolutely the most prepared filmmakers. Sometimes you have a good idea and it just doesn't work. That is just true about filmmaking. So there's nothing to prepare them for this. They're going to have these issues. They tried a bunch of different things, and then the one that they found out that worked in order to get that shot was they filmed it backward, and then in post-production reversed the film.
But how did they launch the bag from the ground of the car?
They throw it back up the car.
So someone's on the ground?
No,
Hiding,
it was
holding
just
the bag?
it was just
Or is there a
an
cut there? I'm
off-screen
not
crew
remembering.
member threw the suitcase to the driver. The driver could then just worry about catching it
And driving straight.
and
yeah.
driving straight, as opposed to throwing it and
Yeah.
driving straight.
Throwing it and hitting a mark.
Not that interesting. Just
No, it is.
the things that we go
It's
to.
more interesting to people who don't know how movies are made.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's all lies.
If you've read a lot about filmmaking, that is not the first time that trick has come across my desk.
and that's often
Reversing the
reversing
footage,
things like Evil Dead. That's a trick they learned from Evil Dead because they
we did it in our sketch tech support.
anytime you if you want to film someone throws a spear or someone fires an arrow at someone's
Yeah.
head and you show it going right up into the forehead
And you
or
really
something like that.
you see it
It's
clearly.
a lot
yeah.
safer to just
Reverse.
put the arrow on the forehead
Mhm.
and then just back it up and then later reverse it because it looks the same, and now you aren't running at an actor with a sharp thing.
If you're a master of reverse acting, which all actors must be,
yeah, I mean,
able to twitch their facial muscles in exact reverse order.
right. Or just be vacant and
Exactly.
Donnie-esque.
Be still for that
Yeah.
shot.
so that's the only there's a limited amount of CG that was used in the
Dreams, I
dream
assume?
sequences, like green screen and stuff.
Yeah.
With him flying, obviously.
hmm
But very limited, very practical.
The green screen of him on the magic carpet flying over LA is actually kind of weak. It looks dated.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Coens were limited by the technology they had.
Yeah.
I just don't know why Jurassic Park it still looks so good. I guess because dinosaurs aren't real, so you're not comparing
It's because
it
Spielberg
to,
is a genius when he thinks about shots. Because
and mixes practical and CG.
because he knew that his limitations were that if it's in Jurassic Park, the rules are if you see the legs, it's
it's
CG.
a rope. Oh, the reverse. Okay, if you just see part of it, it's a robot.
And you don't see that often.
Yeah.
And it's usually very wide, which is helpful for your CG because you don't have to. I just saw the new Ant-Man
Yeah.
movie,
Versus Wasp.
the Wasp
Ant-Man
one,
and the Wasp.
and the
They
Wasp.
team up.
Where they CG the faces of Michelle Pfeiffer and what's his name, Michael Douglas,
Mm-hmm.
and to be younger.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it also with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still Uncanny Valley,
Mhm.
and we're getting good at it.
But it's not perfect.
But you show a wide shot of a T-Rex eating a Gallimimus. Plays.
Well, that's our Big Lebowski episode. Thanks for joining us. Say goodnight, Abe.
Good night, Abe.
Good night.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!